Hello, and welcome to another episode of Intune.Training, the Steve and Adam Show, the place to learn how to use Microsoft Intune. Hey, I'm Adam.
Hey, I'm Steve.
Oh my goodness, you're sitting right next to me.
I can touch you.
Oh, how did this happen?
I don't know. I think it's MMS.
MMS, where are we?
New Orleans.
New Orleans. MMSJazz, Midwest Management Summit Jazz Edition. One of the best conferences of probably the best conference available to learn about Config Manager and Intune and client management.
And let's face it, Microsoft Endpoint Management, the new technology.
Whoa. What are we talking about?
Well, it's the new rebranding. Although we should probably introduce our new co-host or guest today.
Does he know what this is about?
Yeah, you might. I don't know.
Okay.
Not very much.
Dune!
Hey!
Dune! Hello. Who are you? Tell us about you.
My name is Dune. I'm a program manager on the Microsoft Endpoint Manager team.
And program manager, what does that mean that you do?
Program manager, basically I'm in charge of speaking to customers, figuring out what features we should build for our management solutions, and then prioritizing those and making sure that what we end up building is, matches the requirements that our customers have, and that just tends to change over time. So
Excellent.
Monitoring those requirements and making sure we build the right thing.
And
Sounds
so
like
Dune,
herding cats.
Yeah, herding cats. That's right.
Kind of.
So Dune just happened to be here at the conference. I think you've done some sessions, right?
Yep. Yeah.
How many Microsoft folks from the product group and different areas would you say are here?
I think we have about 15 or 17
right.
in that vicinity.
And you guys have been in these jam sessions this week, being able to just...
We've got people hanging out, receiving feedback all day from people at the conference, and then speaking, all day long for all 3 days of the conference here.
So sign up for Midwest Management Summit, MMS MOA, 2020, because this is really the best conference because you get to have direct interaction with the product group.
And it doesn't matter the size of your organization.
No, just show up and talk to them. If you've got a problem, if you've got a question, if you've got a feature enhancement, any of those things, these guys are running around the conference all week and more than happy to help answer our questions. That's enough promoting the conference. We actually asked Dune here to talk to us about, we've heard some cool things at Ignite and here at the conference about Microsoft Endpoint Manager and the new rebranding and things. And so we're hoping that you can tell us how to transition all of our Config Manager clients to Intune. So
it's a great question. I think you'll hear from myself and from other folks on my team that we really aren't. The great thing about Microsoft Endpoint Manager and what that means, and I'll elaborate a little bit there in a moment. But what it means, at its core, is that we're really not asking customers to make a transition. And instead of asking them to make a transition, we're asking them to depending on their environment, to leverage the full breadth of functionality that we have available as part of Microsoft Endpoint Manager by kind of either attaching things together or by taking a cloud-only approach and doing that. And depending on what setup you have today, what your business requirements are, one of those will make sense.
And so you've kind of said, we've heard at Ignite that there's basically 3 different kind of major options for getting us there, because we've been focusing on people using Intune. And so we're saying, okay, if you're a Config Manager only shop and you're looking at Intune, and you could potentially move to Intune wholly if that's really your direction as a company. But and it hasn't ever really been a requirement to fully do that. There's been co-management, but with the new Endpoint Manager, you're really trying to drive that point home and say, look, go with what is comfortable for your company that fits your company's needs, so you can go any level of cloud attachment. But really the idea is use the cloud, leverage the cloud resources to help enhance your client management and capabilities. Is that?
Yep, totally. Basically what we're doing and what the brand means is that previously, our team has been saying we're going to unify things, we're going to do a lot of consolidation and simplification of things. And then we've always kind of said, okay, well, here's 4 things.
Yes.
And our customers have had to choose between those. And there's been much kind of hand-wringing about what they should use when. And it is kind of idea that these are mutually exclusive things. And so with Microsoft Endpoint Manager, now we have a brand for all 4 things, the 4 things being Config Manager, Intune, Desktop Analytics, and Autopilot. And being able to really say, you don't need to choose between these. You just don't. If you're using Config Manager today, then you're using Microsoft Endpoint Manager. And if you're using Intune today, then you're using Microsoft Endpoint Manager. And there's a few different configurations that you can have. And most of our customers will either be in a place where they have Config Manager and they've attached Config Manager to Intune, and then we'll have a bunch of other customers who will be in a position where they're using a cloud-only approach, where they're just using what we think of today as Intune, but in the future we'll think of it all as Microsoft Endpoint Manager. And that, Microsoft Endpoint Manager has a web portal. It also has an on-premise console. And right now, over time, what we'd love is for customers to worry less about what technology is backing up the actions they drive out of these portals, and eventually we'll get to one portal, hopefully. And think more about their business requirements, what it is they're trying to achieve, and how we can help them achieve those goals, and then go above and beyond and achieve some cool things that they might not have even thought of that we can help them do with the power of the cloud that we have at Microsoft and all the data we have. And so the call to action, you mentioned the three things. The call to action for our customers is if you're using Config Manager today, and you're happy there and a Config Manager customer, then great. You're using Microsoft Endpoint Manager. Connect Config Manager to Intune to unlock a whole bunch of new functionality and be able to use the breadth of the functionality that you're entitled to as well, because we had some licensing changes as well that have come in. And basically what it means is that if you're entitled to Config Manager on a device, then you're also entitled to co-manage that device with Intune. And so unlock a whole bunch of new functionality by leveraging the cloud piece of Microsoft Endpoint Manager because you're entitled to it. For customers who are using co-management today, those customers already have access to the breadth of functionality that's available. We would encourage those customers to look at which workloads they can move over to leverage more of our cloud service offerings. And if it doesn't make sense for them, the great part about co-management since it came along is that you can pick and choose what makes sense. And we're not pushing people to move all those workloads over. We're asking you how we can help and make your life easier, reduce your cost of operations in IT. And so we think that, and we know that you think too, thank you for this awesome channel, that there's a lot of value that's available in the cloud and using a more lightweight approach for some of these. And so we're trying to bring that value to our customers and meet their needs so that they can move more of these and ultimately have less headaches at their job every day.
So you've used so number one thing that comes to mind is feature parity. We've heard this over time from different folks of, okay, so Intune doesn't have feature parity with Config Manager or Azure Active Directory, and just the Azure Stack, and not Azure Stack, but the Azure offering ecosystem, is not feature parity. And I mean, if we're not, we're doggone close or even surpassing it in some areas on what's available because of, we're getting monthly releases at a minimum for Intune and all the different cloud offerings are, the release cadence is really stepping up. I know the Config Manager release cadence, you guys have delivered numerous, every 4 months, you guys are giving us a new release of Config Manager. And so can you speak to that as far as, so folks looking at it and saying, well, if I do want to go to full Intune, I guess tie that in with workloads. So when you say workloads, how many workloads are there, and kind of what does that mean for our Intune audience, or just in general for people that haven't looked at co-management? Because I don't believe we haven't really covered it yet in the channel or anything, but just what does that look like?
Okay, so I don't actually know the number of workloads. There might be somebody.
I think we're like 15-ish or something.
Oh, okay, cool.
I feel like.
So workloads are individual.
15.
I don't know. How many do you think we're? 10? 15? 9? Okay, whatever.
That sounds about right.
9 sounds right.
There's some extra sliders in there. Okay. Well,
these workloads are kind of buckets of functionality. And the workloads, when we refer to workloads, generally we're talking about this experience that we have that lives in Config Manager that helps you do conflict resolution between Config Manager and Intune for a specific set of features. And so, for example, you can decide who which policies should take precedence, whether the policies you have specified in the Config Manager console or in the Intune portal should take precedence based on these workload settings. And that's a key piece of how co-management works, and it's only really possible because our teams we are one team, and we have been one team for several years. And so we work super closely together And that's how we can achieve this kind of nice conflict resolution behavior between the products. And there's this mutual awareness between Config Manager and Intune. But to your point about parity, I hope that going forward, what this brand, the new brand means is, first of all, that over time we'll do less comparisons. That we'll definitely have to do a comparison on the identity plane still. But I think the dream is that we're not worried about parity anymore so much as we are worried about supporting different configurations. Like I said, Config Manager attached or cloud only being the two main approaches that we see our customers heading towards. But rather than looking at building parity in Intune, we're thinking about what our customer requirements are, what their needs are, and we need to support great admin and user experiences in both configurations, both from a cloud-only perspective and from a Config Manager attached perspective. And so you'll see us investing heavily in both of those. And what I really like about the new direction and the new brand is that I think it drives my team to rather than to try and just build the same thing in multiple places, really to look to our customers and figure out how we can leverage all the code that we have and all the strengths that Microsoft Endpoint Manager has, both in our cloud services and our on-prem estate, to be able to solve these problems and really be able to provide good management experiences for devices, whether they live on the internet and are born on the internet, or whether they are in a cave or on a submarine. We should be able to have great management experiences for all of those, and we should ultimately have end users, feel good about using Windows in the enterprise.
Well, and so what I'm hearing here is you've never once said that Config Manager is dead or dying or going away.
Or that Intune's going to replace it, or it's migration that you have to make.
Yeah, and I think this is amazing because we know that there are plenty of customers out there that are not yet ready to embrace cloud for various reasons, organizational, legal, whatever. They're not ready to get there. And so what you're saying is that if you're not comfortable with that, you can just stay on-prem, but there are numerous new amazing features that if you just enable co-management, just allow your clients to integrate with Intune from Config Manager, you can open up a new world of possibilities for managing those clients via the cloud, even if you're still just doing it all through on-prem Config Manager. So we've been talking about, Steve's got this saying of MDM is not mobile device management. It's what?
Mobile data management, right? At the end of the day, we're sitting here and we're managing a device as a result of, or as a side effect of needing to manage the corporate data. Because the corporate data itself is the important stuff. That's where we make our money. The device management, while for us it's our bread and butter, we really enjoy it, we also need to realize that we need to get out of the way and allow the customers to do their job. And that's the most important part. And while, yes, we do need to manage devices to meet certain compliance levels, data management is the more important part. And that's the big thing that we discuss around that whole Intune story is, well, on your mobile phones, why do we need to have a full managed platform if all we're doing is accessing emails?
Yeah. And so I'm glad you mentioned mobile for two reasons. First, I think, people, we're trying to paint this picture, and I want to make sure everybody kind of sees the same thing, which is, we've got this Microsoft Endpoint Manager Admin Center, which is the web portal. Previously would have been, I already said Intune portal once in the session. It's fine. The dust will settle around the names. We'll all be okay. So,
and we've previously referred to as DMAC, right?
Yes, right.
Because I think I think maybe the Config Manager dogs helped us out with that. On Twitter, you've followed those guys. I think they created us the aka.ms/DMAC for us. So I'm hoping someone will create us a new one.
Yeah. Matt Shackle.
Yeah.
A fellow Austrian.
Yeah.
So the idea of having this web-based admin center that you can use to manage your devices and to drive actions from that web portal that are driven both from Intune policy and from Config Manager infrastructure is really powerful. And then if you're if you're already an Intune customer, or if you decide to go with Intune for your mobile device management or your mobile data management, if you want to do application management, that kind of thing, as you said, then you are suddenly looking at one web-based portal that you can use to manage devices independently of whether they're on-prem or Intune managed in the Windows space, but also have other platforms in there, have Mac OS devices, have iOS devices, and Android devices, all in the same portal. And our customers in working on Config Manager have been asking us for a web console for a really long time. And so I want customers to think about this direction as kind of us starting to deliver on that. We're not, there's two things that we're not doing. The first one is we're not taking the Config Manager console all up and building it into a website. That's
fair enough.
That's just a lot of complexity.
That's right.
We think Config Manager is wonderful.
Well, plus we only use like 3 of the features in there anyway. So like,
exactly.
You might. I know.
Who needs all that?
we don't want to take everything and put it up there because that's kind of part of the reason that folks have asked us for web console is to simplify a little and make things a little more usable in some cases.
The service desk UI.
Yes, and so that's why we've gone down a path to begin with rather than trying to just go with parity once again, not aiming at parity, to go a path of we're looking at personas and we're looking at this persona of a help desk user or tech who they're using the Config Manager console today potentially, and we've heard loud and clear from customers that we don't necessarily want to give them access to the Config Manager console because they could break things.
RBAC is complex sometimes.
Yes, it is. And time consuming.
Yeah, it really is. And I totally agree with you on the console thing because I don't even know that, I've got probably 20 local IT support guys, and I'm pretty sure they don't go into the console very often and do much in there. And if they do, they're just, putting machines in collections for OSD or something. They're not seeing the reports. They're not being able to manage. They're not managing their devices through the console. They're managing OSD from the console or whatever. But I love what we've seen from the Ignite presentations, which, by the way, we will include links to all the relevant things in the description because we like to do the thing that everybody else does, go look in the bottom thing.
Whoa.
Look out.
That one almost hit me.
Yeah. But being able, I love the new timeline feature that shows up there where it shows you all the history of the things that have occurred on a device, and you can help pinpoint what's going on in your environment, help you troubleshoot, triage your devices, and help protect your devices and be able to take action on them and do things wherever you are. But really, I love the persona approach, and I like the way you described it. You're not trying to replicate the console. You're trying to identify workloads, if you will, for people, not workloads for the device, but workloads that a person in a role is going to have to do for their devices, and focusing on the first line, the help desk guys. I think that's fantastic. Sorry, I say help desk, but I mean, the boots on the ground guy. I think that's amazing because so often it's focused on, well, here's your manager's reports. I've got metrics that show my managers don't open the reports. So let me have something that my guys on the ground can really use. And I think that's fantastic seeing that.
Right. And the other thing that we're not doing, we're not taking the console and building it into the web portal. The other thing we're not doing is just asking our customers to step away from, decades of investments in mission critical infrastructure that they have in Config Manager.
Sure, definitely.
So they don't need to make any steps away from that, and they can use these cool experiences that we built, like Timeline that you mentioned, that we didn't have before in Config Manager, and that we think crosses off a whole lot of things that we'd love to get our customers to start doing, like just having a more painless troubleshooting experience, and being able to do things like retrieve specific metadata. We've had asks in Config Manager for a long time to use our fast channel to go and retrieve metadata really fast, and show you in real time what the IP address is of a device, or all this metadata that you need to figure out what's going on. And we've done that now with this experience, and it's another experience that sits on top of Config Manager in the same way that the console does, really. But it's seamless in terms of which actions and which data come from Config Manager infrastructure or from the Intune portal, now the MEM Admin Center.
I love that now this is going to allow us to have a single location to go. I've always hated multiple tools to do your work and having to go to multiple places to do the things. Mm-hmm. So now being able to go to a centralized place and just say, look, set this as your home page, work from here. Yeah. You can do all of your work from here. You can see metrics, you can see reports, you can change your dashboard for what you see.
And it'll be time before we get to a place where folks can really do that. We fully acknowledge that. Yes. That we have, we'll have 2 management consoles until we can move more things over. Move more things over until we can build more experiences into our web portal. And so that'll be a journey. But we want people to see that directionally. We love to have one portal, which would be our web-based one. Yes. That's what our customers have been asking for. But the Config Manager console is going to be around as well.
Of course. And I think one of the things that we've seen from a Config Manager perspective of folks saying, we've said, go slide your sliders over and pull content from Windows Update for Business or things like that. And I think the large complaint that we hear is bandwidth. Yes. Oh, that's too much content coming over. You're going to kill our WAN length. We only have dial-up speeds at most of our places. And while the technical solution there is get better infrastructure to support your business on, there's a practical aspect to that, and there may be some limitations that prevent people from doing that. And I believe you guys, we've seen, so it was called Doink before, but now it's a new, but just, I guess, talk a little bit about content in general, because I think I'm looking at it saying, so this is great. So now I get to leverage much more cloud functionality while still leveraging my on-prem infrastructure that will help me minimize my WAN traffic and maximize bandwidth for my clients. And so you can talk to that a little bit.
So so you mentioned devices that are on a slower connection and that might have a harder time getting content. Well, delivery optimization is there to help with that. Not only from a distributing, allowing you to get content that you need from the cloud instead of your on-premise infrastructure when it makes sense, but also from a peering perspective, right? Like DO is our Microsoft's flagship peer-to-peer technology, and where we're investing a lot in terms of creating great experiences for content distribution. Now, the connected cache, the Microsoft Connected Cache, which is the official name for
the replacement for the Doink, DOINC, which was originally it was an acronym, or it was letters, and then everyone started calling it Doink, and I think someone in marketing said, we probably should fix this, right?
Yeah. So
Connected Cache.
Connected Cache is really cool because it is much like we want the portal experience to be. It is agnostic of which portal or infrastructure you're using to distribute content. So to elaborate on that, architecture-wise, how the connected cache works is you have Windows PCs that need a piece of content, and so it will say, hey, I need this update, and so instead of going to the delivery optimization service to request that content, it'll go to the connected cache first and say, hey, I need this update content, and the connected cache will either say, oh, I have that content, here you go. And that device will then either download the content from the connected cache or from a peer if it's available, or the connected cache will say, I don't actually have that content. At which point what will happen is both the endpoint and the connected cache will start in parallel downloading a copy of that content. And then once the next device requires the same piece of content, it already has 2 potential on-prem content sources for that content: the peer, the first one that downloaded it, and the connected cache that will also have a copy of that content. And so we hope this approach will help a lot with this kind of content caching approach. The great thing about the connected cache is that, like I said, it lives on a distribution point. So how you install it is to check a box on your Config Manager distribution points to make them a connected cache. But you can kind of think of it as a distribution point that you don't need to worry about distributing content to, because it automatically downloads the right content that your endpoints need.
So it sounds like a peer cache that has an internet source as that can go to the internet to get its source. Yes. A peer cache today, a peer would say, hey, do you have it? And would look at its peer and would look at DP, and it would start syncing the content from a DP. Mm-hmm. But so now we have a DP that
can also get a signal that says, hey, go get it for me, and then bring it down from the internet and then distribute it down to the clients that are looking for it.
And you don't need to worry about distributing that content. And the content types that the connected cache supports span both Config Manager and Intune content.
Awesome.
So
like Win32 apps.
Yeah, Win32
like
apps,
awesome.
Office Click to Run. These are supported by connected cache. And so independent, because this is at the content stack layer and not at the management tool layer, we can leverage this kind of advantage of being able to source content independently of how a device is managed from the connected cache.
So to put you on the spot, if I'm autopiloting a machine and I've got Win32 apps that are going to come down as part of my configuration profile, will it leverage connected cache during autopilot if I'm doing like a hybrid Azure AD join? So if I'm connected to the business network, do I get to leverage that at that stage or not?
My understanding is yes. Do you happen to know otherwise?
No. It just came to me. I was like,
not a loaded question.
I literally just thought, I was like, oh, I wonder how that works. So
it should work. Now, one thing I want to make sure that people understand is that for Config Manager customers, so for Intune, existing Intune customers or co-management customers who've already moved workloads over to Intune, many of those workloads in the cloud-only space are already leveraging delivery optimization quite a bit. But on the pure Config Manager side, the only workload that currently supports delivery optimization is Express updates. So if customers are using Express updates, then they'll get access to delivery optimization. But if they're not doing that, then they'll still see delivery optimization traffic unless they've turned it off for things like store apps. But they will not see it for other software updates until Config Manager 1910. We're now expanding it out so that it'll work for all software updates content.
Including full feature updates?
Yes.
Sweet.
So that will expand a lot, I think, how much coverage we get on delivery optimization and how much we see customers using it. Customers will have to turn it on and try it because many customers have disabled it. But it will work for more workloads. And I'm not sure if you guys saw Narkis Engler's session at Ignite. Recommend plugging that one right here.
But we'll label that one. This is the one Dune talked about.
But she talks also about some future goals of supporting things like config manager content in delivery optimization, and what that might look like. But so we need to support more content types. But this is our kind of flagship first party content distribution technology that we're trying to build into everything that we do.
And so, I feel like we're like a couple topics in on trying to summarize a week of Ignite awesomeness that you guys dropped. And we could go on for hours probably going over this stuff because there's just so many amazing things that came out as a part of this. And we don't have all that time to do that. So I don't know, do we have anything else we want to ask him specifically, or do you have anything that you feel like you didn't cover?
So,
all right, good. Because I don't want to just go on and on because we really could, but we want you to go and watch all the Intune videos and see what all that was all about, because there goes a lot more detail that has actual demos and things like that. So we encourage you to go and actually go and view those things. But we definitely want you to be able to, give us more, whatever you've got. So.
I just wanted to finish my kind of call to action, right? So we talked about Config Manager customers who aren't connected to the cloud today. We said connect Config Manager to the cloud, you'll get the most out of your investment, and you'll be able to do things that you couldn't do before.
Yep.
If you're in co-management today, that's awesome. Figure out which workloads make sense for you to move today based on your business requirements, and help us build the right tech in our cloud services to help it be valuable for you to move those workloads so that we can provide you more value there. For customers who don't have either, then for most of those customers, we'd say have a look at cloud only and figure out if you can do that today. Because if you don't have kind of baggage that a lot of our customers have today, then it makes a lot of sense for many of those customers to go right there and have a lighter weight approach to management.
Definitely.
But we're part of our whole rebranding message here is really look at your business requirements, figure out what makes sense, understand that we support these different configurations and that there's different levels of overhead and complexity that go with each of them, and check them out. And we're not saying either that you need to that these options are mutually exclusive. You can, for many customers who are using Microsoft Endpoint Manager, it'll make sense to have specific subsets of your environment potentially go, all pure Azure AD, for example, and that'll work great whether you're doing co-management, Config Manager attached or cloud only.
Yep.
And for some devices, it might make sense to even say, let's just do Intune on these devices because they live on the internet and they our requirements for those devices are different than our requirements that are on our corporate network, and that's totally supported and something that our customers can do as well.
Yep.
And we'll still have progressive customers as well who are just saying, hey, look, my goal is to turn off a bunch of servers,
yes,
and to leverage this stuff to the fullest potential that I can today. And we're totally with those customers as well, and that's why we're building out, like I said, great scenarios for attached, but also great scenarios for cloud only. And we encourage customers wholeheartedly to go with both. But like I said, we're not pushing any kind of migration or transition. We're really trying to frame, for customers who are on ConfigMan, we want to frame co-management as a destination rather than a path somewhere else.
Yep.
That's a really key element of this, saying that if you've gotten to a place where you've attached together all the pieces of Microsoft Endpoint Manager that you have available to you, then you're there. You're doing you're getting the best of all worlds by doing that.
Definitely.
But we have options for you if you want to take a more agile and progressive approach, then you can do that. If you want to take a more a more disconnected offline on-prem traditional approach, then you can do that as well.
And did I see that you now support servers in the new console?
So
in cloud. I know there's something about servers. I've heard some things about servers in this whole offering.
So there's a couple things. First of all, one of the things that's coming with Microsoft Endpoint Manager is that we'll have all your devices appear in both consoles. So coming soon, all your Config Manager managed devices, whether they're enrolled in the cloud side of Microsoft Endpoint Manager or not, they will appear in the web portal. And that will include devices like Windows 7 devices and servers. And you'll be able to trigger actions that are driven through the Configuration Manager client from that web portal because we support the Config Manager client on those devices, obviously.
Now, do those devices have to be co-managed in order for that to work?
They do not. And,
So
and it's not supported on those devices.
So you're essentially saying that for a server and a Windows 7 box that only have a Config Manager client on them, they will appear in the cloud console as if just like they're on your on-prem console.
And you'll be able to take action on those devices even if those devices have no internet connectivity.
So I don't have to have enrolled them into co-management or slid any of the sliders for the workloads or any of those things.
Correct.
It's just, if it's here, it's there, and it works the same for both places.
It's another user experience on top of the same solutions.
That's fantastic.
Now that's one piece of it. There's another important piece of it too, and I would encourage folks who are on an Ignite content binge right now to check out our content on Azure Arc, and how we integrated there, right? It's kind of like a co-management scenario for servers, right? Azure Arc is building great scenarios for server management and doing some specific things that Config Manager can do at a super granular level, building great server management experiences for VMs in Azure, and thinking of extending Azure into your data center. And vice versa, where it makes sense for using a hybrid approach. And so we've announced some integration with Azure Arc already, and we're working closely with that team to build out some other really cool server scenarios.
Excellent. And so you've kind of alluded to this a little bit, but essentially this is all kind of the things that are in the works some are coming out almost right away, and then some things are going to trickle out over the next year or so, and then you're just kind of laying out the roadmap of where we're headed. So we should start seeing some of these things. So as the Intune portal gets updated monthly, we should start seeing some things. But then sounds like we're already going to see some things in the 1910 Config Manager offering as it comes out as well.
One of the questions that we get a lot and that we'll continue to get is what's going to change for me on Monday with this announce. And the answer is you're going to see a new name. And that's pretty much all that it means. And that doesn't mean that much in terms of changes now, but we hope that over time it'll mean a huge increase in the value that's available to our customers. But from a naming perspective, in the 1910 release of Config Manager and in current tech preview releases, you'll see Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager in the title. We're going to use the MMCM abbreviation for that, even though there's technically no M in the
There's
name.
an extra M in there.
I know,
but
it's because we want to be able to say MEM and refer to the whole solution. But we thought it was a little weird to have two managers in there. It's a
I get it.
No, I like it.
makes
So
sense.
really, if you think about it, it's MIM for Microsoft Endpoint Manager,
Yeah.
and then it's Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager. So it would be really MIM or MECM. It would be the full abbreviation. And so what you're trying to do is, just like we abbreviate, and we don't say System Center Configuration Manager every time we say it. We say Configuration Manager or ConfigMan or any of those variations, but not SCCM because that's never been right.
Exactly.
And SCCM is dead. That one's gone, so don't use it. So that's great. So then we're using the umbrella title, the overarching title, MEM.
SCCM's not dead.
SCCM is alive.
The title, the name is dead.
Haven't you seen Brad's tweets?
Yeah.
And this is literally the best way to frame it, I'm thinking, is Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager and Microsoft Endpoint Manager branding change means that ConfigMan has eternal life.
That's right.
That's the way to think about it.
Yes, exactly.
It is a key part of our strategy. Will continue to be a key part of our strategy going forward.
Excellent. Well, I think this has been
it's
highly
been
enlightening,
awesome.
and I feel like I'm going to go and turn on some Ignite videos and just get the whole fire hose effect and go to town here. And I mean, if you've watched our videos, you know that I'm very excitable. So
Yes, we are.
And there's some underlying stuff that's happening in Config Manager that I'm extremely excited about. That's now being leveraged in the cloud, and so I'm just really excited about just every release. It's just been phenomenal.
Yep.
I'm going to always be a Config Manager guy, as much as we're trying to do the Intune getting there, and I think this just really helps make me feel more comfortable because I can keep using both now, and so I like it. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate the information, and we will update or we'll put, as you're watching this, it'll already be there. The descriptions they're not going to magically appear right now. We're going to have links to the refresh, and the video started over. So we're going to include the links to all of the relevant. I believe there's a couple of blogs that came out through this, as well as the links to a lot of hopefully all the product team videos that came out during the Ignite sessions. And I love that Microsoft makes this stuff available. Even if you couldn't attend Ignite, you still get to get this. And then as this stuff gets released out into production, we're going to continue to see release notes and things for each feature as it comes out. So keep an eye out for that.
Definitely.
And hopefully we're going to just keep... Steve and I still haven't really quite figured out what this means for Intune.training, but we bought a bunch of new domain names, so we don't know. So
just watch this space.
Yeah. Stay tuned, and thank you for your support. And as always, you can find us on Twitter at AdamGrossTX,
at On-Prem Cloud Guy,
at Dune Configured.
Dune Configured. I like that.
Yes.
And probably the big thing that we need to make a big shout out right now is Adam. Congratulations on your MVP.
Yes.
Congrats. Hey, thank you very much. Thank you, community, for your support. And this has been a wild ride, and I'm stoked about it. And I can't wait to just see what's next here.
Well,
so thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome.
See you later.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Go push the button.
This training is filmed in front of a live audience.